Kawhi Leonard is reportedly about to sign a massive extension with the Toronto Raptors, and the reaction around the NBA has been immediate. Players, former teammates, and even rivals are weighing in, but one response is now changing the conversation around the entire deal. Let me break it down. Kawhi Leonard is a Toronto Raptor again. 7 years after he walked away from the franchise he carried to its only championship, he's coming back, and the numbers attached to this move are the kind that stop scrollers mid-swipe. Here's the deal. The Clippers received Brandon Ingram, Grady Dick, 2 first-round picks, a pick swap, and 2 second-rounders for the 7-time All-Star. That's a franchise handing over its top scorer and a former lottery pick, just to get one guy back. And that guy is 35 years old with a well-documented injury history. But here's what made this trade different from every other superstar deal this summer. Leonard didn't just get moved, he pushed for it. Toronto's willingness to offer an extension was one of the biggest reasons. Leonard pushed for a return to the Raptors, according to Charania. This wasn't a front office cold calling a star. This was a guy engineering his own homecoming, and the extension figure attached to that homecoming is enormous. Leonard will be eligible for up to a projected $123.7 million over 2 years, according to ESPN's Bobby Marks. Depending on timing, that number could climb even higher. If he waits 6 months, his maximum extension would be worth $126.7 million. For a player entering the back half of his 30s, that's not a farewell tour paycheck. That's a max-level bet that he's still the best two-way player most nights he steps on the floor. So how did the people who actually play basketball for a living react to this? RJ Barrett, the guy who's about to share a locker room with Leonard, didn't try to play it cool. According to Basket News, like anybody else, RJ Barrett is simply intrigued and compelled by the Toronto Raptors' stunning move in reuniting with Kawhi Leonard. Think about that phrasing for a second. Compelled. Not annoyed that his name kept coming up in trade rumors. Not worried about his own future in Toronto. Compelled like someone watching a heist movie unfold in real time, except he's now a character in it. Then you've got the front office and media voices who cover these locker rooms daily, and they weren't holding back either. Yahoo Sports analyst Kevin O'Connor called it a rare situation where both sides walk away winners, saying it feels like a rare, mutually beneficial trade where the Raptors increase their chances of contention. Add an elite scorer who doesn't sacrifice their defensive DNA, and it's a lot to give for a 35-year-old Kawhi, but worth the swing. Yahoo's Dan Devine put it even more bluntly, calling it an absolutely titanic deal for the Raptors, before adding a simple, stunned, "Good Lord." The Athletic's Esfandiar Baraheni framed the whole thing as a question the entire league is now asking out loud. Can lightning strike twice? Because that'll be the biggest question for Kawhi and the Raptors. Fans picked up on the same disbelief that rippled through locker rooms and front offices. One fan reaction that went viral framed the emotional whiplash of it all bluntly, comparing the reunion to taking back your girl after she cheated. Brutal, but it captures exactly what makes this story different from a normal trade. This isn't just business. There's history here, and everybody in the building remembers it. Toronto's own front office wasn't shy about what this means either. As one fan reaction circulating after the deal put it, Leonard didn't get traded here reluctantly. He chose it. He chose us, the Raptors. One fan wrote, capturing a sentiment that spread fast once the extension framework leaked. Now here's the part that separates this from a standard reunion story. Leonard reportedly wasn't interested in max money from just any team. Leonard's desire to return north of the border shaped the trade market. Several teams expressed interest before the draft, but once it became clear Leonard wasn't interested in signing a long-term extension anywhere other than Toronto, clubs such as the Timberwolves and Pistons backed away. Read that again. 2 other franchises were circling, ready to offer him a fresh start, and he shut the door on both of them because his mind was already made up about one city. That's not how max-level trade demands usually work. Superstars chase title odds, chase warm weather, chase max money wherever it lands. Leonard chased a rematch. Scotty Barnes is the guy who benefits most from all of this, at least on paper. Analysts have pointed out that pairing him with a true go-to scorer solves the single biggest hole in his game. Barnes has never had a real closer next to him, someone who can take over in the fourth quarter while he does the defensive heavy lifting. One breakdown of the move noted that the Raptors have revisited the most successful chapter in franchise history by trading for former Finals MVP Kawhi Leonard, and in the process, they've finally given Scotty Barnes the opportunity to play alongside a true #1 scoring option. So within days of the trade, you've got a teammate calling it compelling, a front office being credited or blamed depending on who you ask. Media personalities calling it Titanic, and fans split between euphoria and betrayal flashbacks. That's the temperature of the league right now. And we haven't even gotten to the extension talks that are unfolding as we speak, or the shadow hanging over this entire deal that most of the celebration conveniently skips past. Because here's the thing. This isn't Leonard's first rodeo with a Raptors contract negotiation. 7 years ago, a very similar set of high-stakes numbers got thrown around before he walked out the door for Los Angeles. And this time, there's an NBA investigation still circling the very team he just left. One that could complicate everything the Raptors think they just locked down. If the trade itself was the earthquake, the contract negotiation is the aftershock everyone's now watching in real time. Days after the deal became official, Leonard made a move that caught the entire league off guard. Not on the court, but off it. Kawhi Leonard changing agents for his next negotiations, pushing aside his longtime advisors, is worth noting, with the handling of those negotiations going to Harrison Gaines of Slash Sports, replacing Leonard's longtime representatives Mitch Frankel and uncle Dennis Robertson, according to Charania. For anyone who's followed Leonard's career, this detail lands differently than a routine agent swap. Robertson isn't just Leonard's uncle, he's been the architect behind every major business decision in Leonard's career for over a decade. Frankel handled the on-paper negotiations, but Robertson was always the guy in the room. Cutting him out now, right, as a franchise-altering extension is on the table, is the kind of move that makes agents around the league sit up. And the timing isn't a coincidence. According to NBC Sports, it is not a coincidence that this change comes after the NBA launched an investigation into Leonard's contract with the Clippers and whether the team used former sponsor aspiration to circumvent the salary cap and get more money to Leonard. We'll get into exactly what that investigation involves in a moment. But for now, just sit with this. Leonard restructured his entire negotiating team at the exact moment a league investigation into his uncle's business dealings was reportedly wrapping up. Gaines isn't some anonymous hire either, though he's not walking in with a massive client roster. Gaines, who has served as Leonard's business attorney over the past year, is scheduled to meet with Raptors officials in Toronto in the coming days. He doesn't currently represent any other NBA players, but formerly represented Lonzo Ball and LaMelo Ball. So this is a guy who's operated in the league's business circles before, just never in the agent's chair for someone at Leonard's level. Now let's talk numbers, because this is where the insane part of the story really lives. Leonard has 1 season left on his current deal worth $50.3 million. That's the floor. The ceiling is where things get wild. Leonard will be eligible for up to a projected $123.7 million over 2 years, with more than 10 years of NBA experience. He can earn up to 35% of the salary cap, but during the 6-month window after the trade, he's limited to a 20% raise on his previous salary, and then a 5% raise for the second year. While if he waits 6 months, his maximum extension would be worth $126.7 million. That's more than $126 million on the table for a 2-year extension for a player who turned 35. The same week the trade went through, Raptors fans have already started running their own math on this. One fan breakdown speculated on the percentage structure, writing that if it lands on the higher tier, if it's a 35% max, that would be insane, with 30% landing around $106 million over 2 years. Either way you slice it, we're talking about one of the largest short-term commitments the league has seen for a player this deep into his career. Bobby Webster, Toronto's front office lead, is the man steering this. And according to sources close to the situation, familiarity with Toronto's front office, now overseen by Executive Vice President Bobby Webster, factored into Leonard's openness to the move. Leonard also values the city and believes the Raptors can compete in the Eastern Conference, with sources adding he envisions finishing his career there. Finishing his career there. That's the phrase doing all the work in this story. This isn't being framed as a 2-year stopover. Multiple reports are treating this as Leonard picking his final chapter, and picking it deliberately. Not everyone in Raptors circles is fully sold, though. Skepticism has followed Leonard's health record into every conversation about this extension. One fan reaction cut straight through the optimism, pointing out that Leonard's availability or lack thereof has some Raptors fans questioning why GM Bobby Webster gave up such a big package for an injury-prone player, with one commenting that that's a lot to give away for a bag of broken parts. Harsh, but not baseless. We'll get into exactly why in a moment. Still, the excitement is outpacing the caution right now. Analysts are already framing this contract talk as one of the more unusual power plays in recent league history. A star pushing his way to a reunion, cutting his own family out of the room to close the deal, and doing it all while a league investigation into his last contract hasn't even finished playing out. Because make no mistake, that investigation isn't a footnote here. It's the backdrop against which every number in this extension conversation is being negotiated. And the deeper you dig into it, the stranger this whole picture gets. To understand why this extension conversation is happening the way it is, quietly, quickly, with a brand new agent, you have to go back to what happened in Los Angeles. Roughly a year before this trade, the story that rocked the league had nothing to do with Leonard's knees. It had to do with his bank account. Ahead of Leonard's final season with the Clippers, investigative journalist Pablo Torre dropped a bombshell report, alleging that the organization circumvented the salary cap by helping Leonard secure a $28 million no-show endorsement deal with Aspiration. Aspiration wasn't some random shell company either. Founded by Joe Sandberg and Andre Cherney, it was a sustainability company that pledged to provide socially conscious and sustainable banking services and investment products, and received a $60 million personal investment from Ballmer while serving as a major Clippers sponsor. The relationship between Aspiration and the Clippers ran deep. In September 2021, the Clippers signed a $300 million endorsement deal with Aspiration, making the company the first founding partner of the Intuit Dome, the Clippers' new arena, which opened in 2024. Then the whole thing collapsed. Aspiration went bankrupt, and Sandberg was sentenced to 14 years in federal prison. That's not a corporate hiccup. That's the kind of collapse that drags every prior business decision under a microscope, including a $28 million personal endorsement deal that raised eyebrows the moment it became public. The math behind why this deal looked suspicious in the first place is almost too clean to be coincidence. Per one legal breakdown of the case, in 2019, Leonard became a free agent after winning the NBA Finals with the Raptors. Had he re-signed in Toronto, the Raptors could have offered him $190 million over 5 years. Meaning under the CBA, any other team was limited to an offer of $141 million over 4 years. So to sign with the Clippers, Leonard would have had to turn down an additional $49 million in total contract value, a number just $1 million short of the total value of his deal with Aspiration. $1 million. That's how close the alleged no-show deal lined up with the exact gap Leonard would have had to eat by choosing the Clippers over Toronto. That's the number that turned a curious endorsement deal into a league-wide investigation. And the league took it seriously. Kawhi Leonard and his uncle and business advisor Dennis Robertson have been interviewed by NBA investigators as part of the league's inquiry. And Clippers owner Steve Ballmer and other team executives have also sat for interviews, as have executives for the now-defunct Green Banking Company at the center of the allegations. Adam Silver himself confirmed the process was nearing its end, saying before the NBA Finals that the investigation was far along, and that the league is close to the point now where I think we need to wrap this up. The penalties on the table aren't small either. Penalties include fines up to $7.5 million, direct forfeiture of draft picks, voiding any player contract, and a suspension of up to a year for any team personnel found to have engaged in such a violation. Voiding any player contract. Sit with that phrase for a second, because it means Leonard's entire Clippers tenure, the very thing this trade is trying to close the book on, technically still carries a cloud over it until the league says otherwise. One NBA insider went even further, floating the idea that Leonard's deal specifically could be the target. Tom Haberstroh reported that maybe it's a case where Adam Silver levies some sort of punishment, whether it's forcing Kawhi Leonard's contract to be invalidated. And I think that would be one of the things that is on the table, Haberstroh said. Now layer that onto the trade. Toronto and Los Angeles agreed to send Leonard north while this exact question, can his contract even survive league scrutiny, was still unresolved. Analysts flagged the strangeness of that timing immediately. If the Clippers are found to have broken the collective bargaining agreement, they could be susceptible to fines and/or a loss of draft picks, with Leonard's contract also having the potential to be voided, though the trade itself could potentially indicate that both teams received assurance from the league that the latter would not occur. That last part matters. It suggests the Raptors didn't just gamble blind on this trade. They may have gotten some kind of green light behind closed doors that Leonard's paper wasn't going to blow up mid-transaction, but may have gotten assurance isn't the same as certainty, and it's exactly why Leonard's camp is moving fast to lock in the new extension before that investigation fully closes. This wasn't even the first time Leonard's camp drew league scrutiny for how they handled his business dealings. Back during his original free agency in 2019, before he ever set foot in a Clippers jersey, the forward's uncle and advisor, Dennis Robertson, was investigated by the league for reportedly asking teams, including the Raptors, for impermissible benefits during that free agency, including Leonard having minority ownership of the team, a private jet available at all times, and a guaranteed amount of endorsement money. So this isn't a one-off. This is a pattern that's followed Leonard's contract negotiations for close to a decade. And it's precisely why swapping out his entire negotiating team, right as the Raptors' extension conversation begins, looks less like a coincidence and more like damage control dressed up as a fresh start. Every superstar reunion story eventually runs into the same question: was the price worth it? And this one has some of the sharpest disagreement across league circles that we've seen all offseason. Start with the raw comparison. This isn't Toronto's first time doing this exact play. 8 years ago, the Raptors were stuck as a strong regular season team unable to break through in the playoffs. So they took a home run swing, trading their leading scorer, DeMar DeRozan, a recent lottery pick with middling production in Jakob Poeltl, and draft capital for Kawhi Leonard in the two-way Stars' final season before free agency. Everyone remembers how that ended, a championship parade down Bay Street. Now they've run the exact same blueprint. Fast forward to 2026, and the Raptors are trying the same move once again, aiming to raise their ceiling by trading their leading scorer, this time Brandon Ingram, a recent lottery pick with middling production in Grady Dick, and draft capital for Leonard in his final season before free agency. But the cost this time is dramatically steeper, and there's a clean explanation for why. Toronto's deal to acquire Leonard back in 2018 was, in retrospect, the last major superstar trade that didn't involve a giant collection of draft picks. Toronto only traded one first-round pick for Leonard and Danny Green, but a year later, the Lakers and Clippers traded for Anthony Davis and Paul George respectively, and changed the standard superstar price forevermore. So it's now common to see upward of half a dozen future picks and swaps changing hands for an all-NBA mainstay. So when people say Toronto overpaid, the honest answer is every team overpays for stars now. That's just the league's going rate in 2026. Statistically, Leonard's still operating at an elite level, which is the whole justification for the price tag. When he's available, Leonard remains one of the NBA's best players. Remarkably, the 34-year-old seven-time All-Star averaged a career-high 27.9 points per game on a career-high usage rate last season, and LeBron James is the only player in NBA history with a better box plus-minus at that age or older. His shooting hasn't fallen off a cliff with age either. Since returning from an ACL tear that cost him the entire 2021-22 campaign, he has made 40.5% of his three-pointers. And for context, Stephen Curry's number is 40.6% over the same span. That's the argument for the extension in one stat line. He's shooting like peak Steph off the catch right now, at an age when most wings have already lost a step. But availability remains the trapdoor under this entire deal, and it's the number every skeptic keeps circling back to. He made the All-NBA second team both times he reached 65 games, but those on-off numbers show how much his team suffered in the third of the time he wasn't available. His injury concerns have also extended to the postseason, where across the 2023 and 2024 playoffs, he played in just 4 out of a possible 11 games. That's not a minor footnote. That's the single biggest variable in whether this extension becomes a franchise-defining move or a very expensive cautionary tale. Now let's talk about what this means for the guys already in that locker room, because the ripple effects reach well past Leonard himself. Scottie Barnes is the most obvious beneficiary. The Raptors finally have someone who can take over when the offense stalls late in games, which has been the single missing ingredient in his game since he entered the league. But RJ Barrett's situation is far messier. He just delivered one of the biggest moments of his career, and now his roster spot is suddenly a live debate. After an electric postseason run that saw Mississauga's own hit a game winner at home in Game 6 against the Cleveland Cavaliers while averaging 24.1 points per game. Barrett's value may never be higher. With him on the last year of his deal, Toronto could look to flex his near $30 million salary in a trade for 2 high-quality connective pieces to surround Barnes and Leonard. But here's where it gets interesting. Reporting suggests Toronto actually protected Barrett rather than dangling him. According to insider Jake Fisher, The Raptors and Clippers have held real trade conversations this weekend on sending Kawhi Leonard back to Toronto, according to league sources. And crucially, in discussions with the Clippers, sources say Toronto has expressed a preference in dealing Brandon Ingram to Los Angeles, as opposed to RJ Barrett. That single detail tells you everything about how the front office actually views its own roster. Ingram was the name they were willing to move. Barrett, fresh off a signature playoff moment, was the one they fought to keep. That's not a small distinction when you're trying to figure out who Toronto believes in long term. On the defensive end, the fit questions basically disappear. Just a touch of offensive help could make an outsized difference for the Raptors, because with Barnes leading the way, the team's defense is worthy of a top playoff seed. The 2025-26 Raptors finished 5th in defensive rating, and Leonard should provide a meaningful upgrade on Ingram as Toronto's go-to scorer, while being a vastly superior option on the other end, where Leonard, Barnes, and rising sophomore Colin Murray-Boyles could form an impenetrable defensive trio. On paper, that's a terrifying group to try and score on come playoff time. But paper doesn't play back-to-backs in February, and it's the health question, not the fit question, that every honest evaluator keeps coming back to. The fan base's temperature swings wildly depending on who you ask. And that split says a lot about how uncertain this whole gamble really is. Some are treating it purely as basketball logic. One fan breaking down the trade wrote plainly that this move completely locks in a real championship window for Scotty's prime. And huge props to Kawhi, because he could have gone to plenty of teams, but he wants to sign an extension and retire a Raptor. That is a massive deal. Others are still nursing the scar tissue from how it ended the first time, unable to separate the excitement from the memory of watching him walk out the door once already. So where does all of this actually leave Kawhi Leonard, the Raptors, and everyone watching this unfold in real time? Right now, the extension talks are just getting started. Gaines is meeting with Raptors officials. The numbers on the table stretch past $120 million, and Leonard's side has made it clear, through actions more than words, that Toronto is the only destination they're negotiating with seriously. That's not how a rental arrangement usually looks. That's how a guy plans a final chapter. But the story isn't clean, and it was never going to be. The same week fans were celebrating the reunion, the league's investigation into how Leonard got paid the first time around was reportedly nearing its conclusion, with fines, forfeited picks, and even avoided contracts still sitting on the table as possible outcomes. Nobody in Toronto is pretending that shadow doesn't exist. They're negotiating a brand new max-level extension while the ink on the old contract's legitimacy is still technically being reviewed by league investigators. And then there's the human piece of this that no spreadsheet can capture. Leonard turned 35 the week. This all came together. He's a guy who's already lived through one heartbreak, ending with this exact franchise, who left them once for a promise of sunshine and championships that never fully arrived in Los Angeles, and who apparently wants to spend however many seasons he has left trying to write a different final page. Barnes gets his closer. Barrett gets to keep fighting for his spot after the best stretch of his career. Webster gets to find out if lightning really does strike twice in the same city, with the same player, 7 years apart. And Leonard, sitting across the table from a brand new agent, negotiating the richest short-term deal of his career, with a league investigation still humming in the background, gets to find out if this version of the story ends any differently than the last one did. Nobody around the league is treating this as settled. The extension hasn't been signed, the investigation hasn't been closed, and the health record that's followed Leonard for the better part of a decade hasn't magically disappeared just because he's back in a Raptors uniform. What's clear is that everyone who plays this game, covers this game, or watches this game from their couch is locked in on the same question right now. Not whether Kawhi Leonard can still play at an elite level when healthy, because that's been answered, but whether Toronto just bought itself a second miracle or a very, very expensive rerun of heartbreak. Either way, the number attached to keeping him is already historic. The team he's rejoining has already reshaped its entire roster around the bet, and the league is watching every next move as closely as the fans, who never stopped believing lightning could strike twice. Kawhi Leonard changes agent. Extension talks to begin soon. Hoops rumors. Kawhi Leonard reportedly hires new agent for extension negotiations with Raptors. NBC Sports. Kawhi Leonard changes agents. Set to begin extension talks with Raptors. Yardbarker. Kawhi Leonard hires new agent to handle contract extension with Toronto Raptors. Dallas Hoops Journal. Kawhi Leonard Raptors to begin negotiations on contract extension. Real GM wiretap. NBA Free Agency News 2026, Yahoo Sports, Clippers set to trade Kawhi Leonard to Raptors as aspiration ruling looms. Front Office Sports. Kawhi Leonard's strange, failed era with Clippers ends with Raptors trade. CBS Sports. Sources. NBA interviews Leonard. Advisor in aspiration case. ESPN. Aspiration. A fraudulent company or a vehicle for the Clippers to pay Kawhi Leonard above the cap. Temple Law. Kawhi Leonard's contract could be invalidated as punishment for aspiration scandal. Yahoo Sports. Raptors fans react to the Kawhi Leonard trade. Raptors Republic. Toronto goes all in for Kawhi Leonard. Grading the trade. ESPN. NBA fans react to Kawhi Leonard's return to Raptors. Yahoo Sports. Blue Jays had perfect reaction to Kawhi Leonard. Raptors trade roundtable. Toronto Raptors fans react to Kawhi Leonard trade. Blog2. Raptors have a non-negotiable next move after monumental Kawhi Leonard trade. Raptors Rapture. RJ Barrett gets honest about Kawhi Leonard Raptors trade. Basket News. What Kawhi Leonard trade means for Raptors plans with Jakob Poeltl, RJ Barrett, and others. Yahoo Sports. New Kawhi Leonard trade intel may have just revealed Raptors' true RJ Barrett stance. Raptors Rapture. Raptors finally give Scotty Barnes the missing piece with Kawhi Leonard trade. Raptors